Hey YouTube, it's been a while. You never called me back. I missed you. I figured I could maybe just make a video. Just don't promise me you won't share it with any of your coworkers or your friends. Just kidding, of course. You can share it with whoever you want. I actually would prefer it. Today we're going to be talking about the starter set, The Lost Mines of Phandelver. And I think it's an amazing way to get new players into the game. I enjoy running this over and over. Every time I get new players, I don't mind running it for them because it's fast and really teaches people how to play the game. So I just wanted to go over what it's about for anybody who's playing the game. This is more particularly for whoever is dungeon mastering or being the GM, DM of the game, and less for the players. And also, if you're watching my video and you're in my D&D groups and you're in the upcoming one for new players, just stop the video now. There's going to be spoilers in it, and I have some surprises. I don't want you guys to see anything, and you guys will. But for the time being, I want to go over what the Lost Mines of Phandelver is about. So, we have this torn up page, The Lost Mines of Phandelver. So, in short, Gundren Rockseeker has a couple of brothers, and they have found the location, the Wave Echo Cave. And this is a cool thing because it can create magic items. I don't necessarily know if he knows that, but if you follow the book, it'll tell you later. But essentially, he hires you guys to get some supplies there so they can start excavating and going through the mine. He wants you to take some supplies to Phandelver, and on your way there, you see an ambush, and things seem to be off. You end up finding out that there's a lot of monsters in the area. There's a lot of problems within the town. The Rockseeker brothers have been kidnapped or have been being followed, spied upon, and there's some issues with the government in the town as well, trying to get a slice of the money from the mine. They want in on this action as well. So you do have to clear out kind of the area of the monsters. You do find out that the mine is kind of contested. A lot of people actually want it. So it actually makes sense that if you have something that can fuel a powerful army full of magic items, that some bad people would want to get a hold of it, as well as some greedy people would want to get a hold of it. So yeah, so you have to kind of clear the area of bad guys. There's a cool couple side quests that don't necessarily have much to do with it, but they're good to kind of get your characters for the first time playing D&D. So I want to go over how you can spice it up in a lot of really cool ways. So first things first, I'm not going to go over all the things I did, but I'm going to give you some examples. And I'm going to tell you just a quick bullet point way of how you can spice up your campaigns, especially the Lost Mines of Phandelver. First, use your environment. So I like to, for like a fight, if I'm in, say, Cragmaw Castle, say like as you enter this building, there's a row of chandeliers swinging from the ceiling. Things along those lines so they can interact with that. Or if there's a bridge that looks like it can be cut, pots of boiling water that can be thrown, stuff like that. There's still a lot of oil in a smooth stone hallway they can make a slick trap out of. Along those lines. Explore your characters' backstories. So I definitely do this a lot. I reward characters for the more they put into their backstory. So my warlock, he's a more nerdier guy. He's really into D&D and the lore, and he created like a good full typed out page of backstory for his. So I was able to really, get his patron in here, say he's proud of him, that he has Castellanter blood running strong through his veins, and give a good role played interaction with his patron. I also have an elf who was a twin, and he joined the military, but his squad got killed and ambushed. So I had his twin brother come looking for him because he was afraid his brother had died in that ambush and he couldn't get answers. And he spoke to his brother, and there was some hugs and good moments, and he gave him a kind of like a gift, and just he's like, take this to be safe. And it was a cape of many items or whatever. It's something where you can pull out a ladder, or you can pull out a guard dog or a horse, and he's like, you might need this because I thought you were going to die, right? So definitely use your character's backstories, explore it. Pick on the quiet guy. And I wrote this because every D&D group has somebody who's really loud and somebody who's really quiet. Somebody who comes up with all the ideas and somebody who just kind of follows. So I don't mean pick on them like be mean, but I pick on them as in the way where, alright, You guys have entered this area of the forest, and there's a nice large clearing. As you guys start setting up your tent, you hear a sound in the back of the trees just behind the camp. You ignore it for now, but as you guys are eating, you hear it get louder. Quiet guy, let's call him John Doe for now. Quiet guy, what do you think we should do? Give them the opportunity. So as you enter the castle and see the chandelier swinging from the ceiling, you notice that the goblins haven't noticed you yet. Luckily, as you open the door, they just didn't hear you, and they're still arguing over what they should eat for dinner out of the moldy bread or the barrels of beans that are dried. Along those lines, what should your first move be? You pull back the party and decide to tell them and let them take it over, and just give them opportunities to make some moves. And sometimes they'll be like, I don't know, what do you guys think we should do? I'm like, no, what do you know? A good example would be like, it's like, all right, you guys enter the room. It looks like it might be trapped based on your sense. What do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know. I guess. Well, what would your character do? I guess I'd look for traps. Okay, where would you start? I'd start with the wall. See if there's anything different. Okay, cool. So you got him going. I like to keep the combat rolling. I like to say, like, if a character, or there's an NPC and they're just beating it down, it's got 100 health, but they keep getting bad rolls or they keep missing. In this combat, I can see in the group that the excitement to start combat is starting to fade. I will cut the health a little bit, especially if I don't think this would kill a player anyways. If it's a hard fight, it'll keep their interest. In this campaign, they fight a dragon. Doesn't matter how long that fight takes. It'll be interesting because of how dangerous it is. Anything that can make you make a new character sheet is interesting. Trust me. So I'm just talking about, like, alright, 8 goblins are in this room. The rolls are kind of bad and this is taking a while. I use something called a minion rule, which is essentially, if you got a party of level 4 characters and you got some CR 1/4 creatures, like, less than 10 health, just if they hit them, they die. If they miss, they miss. If they have 8 health and they do 7 damage, just kill the character. Keep it moving. Keep the interest going. And I think the biggest thing is use descriptions of areas that use the senses. I tend to prepare things a little more, and the way I do things, I do about an hour of prep, of like solid, focused prep, will give me 3 hours, maybe 4 hours of playtime with my group. And when I say focus, because I use my phone, I'm on the internet checking memes, stuff like that, and I'll prep for 2 hours, but really, sometimes 3 hours, but really an hour of that is focused. So, all that aside, I want to go into some of the tips, besides that I think will really, really help your party. And so descriptions are key. In the Lost Mines of Phandelver, they have you go to a place called the Stonehill Inn. They give you these paragraphs of what you should tell your story, right? Or tell your characters as they approach the inn. And they give you like a little bit of a paragraph of what you should say. And let me give you an example of one of the things they tell you to say. So as you get into Phandelver, you get to the Stonehill Inn and it says this. There's a little box here and it says, in the center of town stands a large, newly built roadhouse of fieldstone and rough-hewn timbers. The common room is filled with locals nursing mugs of ale or cider, all of them eyeing you with curiosity. It's not bad. If you want to run it just how it is, that's totally fine. If you want to spice it up a little bit, I recommend looking up YouTube videos and using it as inspiration, or if you read books, that's always good too. A good example is I had a buddy who had a campaign where there was a storm, and he watched videos of like typhoons in an Asian country and how they had like flooding, and he used descriptors and the fear that was in people's videos and the destruction of the houses. He took all that in and then wrote it, and just that's what he did. And I did the same thing for an orchard, but for right now, I want to explain the difference between how I describe the Stonehill Inn and how it's in the book. So, you approach a 2-story rustic dive, where the locals soak the aching backs of a hard day's work with mead and cider. As you enter the building, the barkeep perks up at the opportunity for new business, snaps his fingers at a barback, who rushes to grab platters of dried fruits, cheeses, hot sausages, and mustard. The smell of cinnamon and oranges fill your nose as he pours 4 copper cups with hot spiced cider. Cider's on the house! Sildar let us know you helped retrieve those goods from those thieves. And then I have some other things like, oh, thanks to you, you guys got back the supplies. We haven't been able to make our favorite dessert, and the town's been really wanting it. Maybe that'll even have some of the patrons perk up and like, oh, it was you guys that helped? Okay, thank God, we were missing that dessert. It's our favorite. In fact, you know what? Hey, let me buy one for these guys. One each. Okay, five coppers each, or what was that? 3 silver, 3. So just keep the change. As a tip. So you can have the way I described it. It's probably 3 paragraphs instead of the 1, but I think that they could have done more. I mean, they're selling a product for people that first get into D&D. I think they could have made it for somebody who's a first-time GM, give them a little bit more description. But on the other side, they also let a lot of creativity for the new GM. So, I kind of wrote a little bit of each of the characters. I think it's fun to just kind of give them a small backstory. Like, Frida the Weaver, who's in there. It said, she's an eccentric woman, in her 30s, gives off the vibe of owning 4 cats. She's got like a crystal necklace and too much clothes on, like kind of like flowy, witchy lady. Something like that. She's a cat lady. And then I was like, oh, I'm so glad to see a young man like you. Just silly stuff. And then one of the things I did is I went onto YouTube and I watched a video, and somebody had visited their parents' orchard for the first time. Parents moved into a house. The mom planted an orchard. It was beautiful. They had trellises full of flowers and grapes and fruits, and it was springtime, and it was really, really pretty. So in the Eatermath orchard, they give you the tiniest, they barely even describe it, to be honest with you. So this is what I wrote down as an example. On the outskirts of town, you seem to stumble upon a garden paradise. Sweet fruit smells mixed with the scent of grass and vegetation. Honeybees fly from flower to flower as you pass a bed of sunflowers. You arrive at a home overlooking a fruit pasture. Every plant and tree looks to be meticulously arranged, as though an elf put his or her time and pride into his own slice of paradise. As you approach the building, an elven man greets you. Hello, new faces. What brings you? And this is, I made a little note thing. It's like, what's here? I got figs. They're just flowering. Apple trees, garlic, grapevines, pears, peas, beehives, honey, sage, rosemary, thyme. All those things that you would see in a little orchard. But I wanted to, one, use the senses, like the smells and the sounds and the brightness and this, But I also wanted to, this is an elf. So, a human farmer, or a better example, a dwarf farmer might have a money patch of pumpkins that are huge, and he's proud of how big his pumpkins are, and he's making pumpkin ale, and he wants you to try it, and he's already a little bit buzzed from it. But for an elf, I feel like their orchard would be really pretty, so I made it that way. Okay, so I'm going to make this video a little bit longer, but I think I'm going to go over this in paragraph by paragraph. So honestly, ideally, if you run this campaign, you could just watch part 1, part 2, part 3, and then just kind of take some of my notes, and you can run from there. And I thought about starting a Reddit too, so people can just get some good ideas. Alright, fun thing in the campaign. You have to go to the Cragmaw Castle. In the Cragmaw Castle is a bunch of goblins and bugbears. And then in that very end of the castle, there's an owlbear tower. Very scary, very hard. I thought something more interesting could be done with this, and just a little spicing, just every chapter spice something up goes a really long way. So instead of having just an owlbear fight, which was just basically a harder fight than a bugbear, but it's still a monster, I had something called the Butcher, and it was a cook. It was a troll cook. I didn't tell them that, I just described it. He's tall, rubbery skin, green and ugly, patchy, hair falling out, and pointed nose, and they kind of they're like, oh, what is this? The new players are like, oh, what is this? And the older players are like, I know what this is, and they were scared because trolls are strong. So I said, I wrote it out to myself, room 11, for when they get to either room 7 or 11. It says, as you approach the door, hear operatic singing over the sounds of grunting and screeching. Walking through the door, the tall ceilings of crumbling statues of once beautiful men and women, angelic poses that show the beauty of human form, and along the ceiling there are rows of chandeliers, unlit and swaying. Large sections of the walls are reduced to rubble, and now the singing comes to a crescendo, and it rings loudly from the south. And as they enter that room where they're like, well, we'll go check out the singing, I'll ask them, what do you guys do? We're going to go check it out? Alright, let's go check out the singing. The upper floors look dangerous and unstable with loose stone. The upper floors of this tower have collapsed to create a hollow silo at least 30 feet high. The upper reaches of this room still have some ledging, but smoke makes its way up and out of the room. As you enter, you see a large wooden table with bloodstains and flies surrounding the work area, and the smell of wood smoke and rotten blood fills your nose. Just as you step into the room, a hulking beast has looped a noose around a bear's neck prior to your entrance, and just as you enter, his giant cleaver strikes down to take the bear's head clean off. It slumps to the ground dead as air gurgles from the stump where his head was, and the butcher begins to sing. This is where it's interesting. You're like, alright, we're going to attack. But I just keep going and say, you all open your eyes. Bound together, you see all of your items are over in the corner of the room, and the butcher is starting a large pot of broth, and you are what's on the menu. He hasn't noticed you are awake, and I had one of the characters in the pot. So they have a certain amount of time. Every longer they took to figure this out, the more damage I was rolling for the person in the pot, to the point where he'd just be cooked alive. That being said, I set up the room. Obviously, remember I said there's like a loose ceiling that they could just Eldritch Blast and try and knock him down as they figure it out. But I set up the room to have, he's a cook, so he's got some spices, hot peppers they could throw in his eyes and blind him as they try to escape and push him into the fire. I put down that there's lots of torches around to light up the room. I also put down there's a butcher's table with blood where it's got a giant cleaver and a long sharp knife, so once they break free they have a little bit of a weapon if they want to fight. I've had party members, they're bound and they inch their way and get their leg and they kick their way and get their wand, and as soon as they get their wand, pop, 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 one of my characters, he's a barbarian that specializes in grappling, which is fantastic. I love it because he doesn't do almost any damage, but he's spec'd himself to where he has really high AC. He has a lot of health. He did more constitution and strength than anything. He's a barbarian, and then all of his feats he taken was just to help him grapple. So every time, he's essentially our tank. Every time we get into a combat with like a dragon or a troll, it's like a grapple it. Rage grapple, advantage on strength, just gets him, always grapple. Almost within 1 or 2 grapples, they're grappled. Then he'll knock them prone. Everybody gets advantage. It's like he's casting fairy fire as a barbarian, but the thing is, he is sacrificing himself for the party. He's taking out if it's a bunch of orcs, he'll just fight. But if it's something big, he's like, look, I'll take the hits. I take half damage anyways. I'm just going to grapple it. Let's get it done. And it's really cool. I like it. It's a great idea. But that's an example of how I took an owlbear encounter, which was literally, as you enter the room, owlbear's in the room and he attacks. Alright, now you have to do 50 damage and keep moving. This is more interesting because they're naked. They have to figure out how they can escape the situation, while one of their characters is going to die in 5 rounds if they don't, because he's taking a d6 of fire damage or burning damage every turn. So that was an interesting thing. And another thing I just think is cool that would be good for you guys to take in is there is a quest called Orcs of Wiventor. As you get to the mayor, he says, look dude, there's some orcs up in the hills. You gotta get rid of these orcs. They're a problem. People are trying to trade with us, and then they're getting attacked and ambushed by orcs, which isn't necessarily true in my campaign, because I wrote, as you approach, you go over the hill, and as you approach Wiventor, you see these tents, and then there's an orc man standing outside, and he says, please, I would love to speak to you. I know why you're here, but before you begin, there's something you must know. And then the character's like, what? He's like, can I ask you a favor? Usually they're like, what's the favor? And like, come on in. And as they enter the tent, he turns to you and says, I ask that you respect the non-violence of this tent. Keep it peaceful in here. And then after we talk, we can continue with what I know you are here to do. I suspected you'd be coming. Stuff along those lines, right? Well, in the story of Lost Mines of Phandelver, they basically say that, this mine was created by the dwarves and the gnomes, and people wanted it. Everybody's fighting over these resources because it's good. And orcs came and they started robbing people, and then the goblins came. And it's like, no. This is not true. We've been here before. This is our land. We did not create the mine, so that was the dwarves. However, this is our land. They came in. They genocided the orcs that were living here. They colonized the entire area. They drove us up into the hills. They had no mercy for us, and now we have to basically live in hiding. And now I want to ask you, oh, there's these evil orcs. They're so bad because they kill people. If an orc came into your village and started stealing your things and killing your children in order to stop them from growing up to be big, bad, evil orcs, but killing your human children, you would kill that orc, yes? Okay. Now, imagine the humans have been driven up into the hills, and now you have some of those orcs come by and they've got goods, and you're starving because they've taken the fat of the earth. They've taken the best spots near the water, the fishing areas. They're all taken. And now you see that they're getting rich off your land. Of course, we're not running into the town in war bands. We're taking off what we need to survive. And yeah, you know what? We feel justified in it. I want you guys to know that. Before you come here and eradicate the rest of us, that this was rightfully our land. And if you must, you shall. But I just wanted you to know. I wanted somebody to know that this is orc land. And I went into things like, you know, we're all races, whether you're an elf, whether you're a dwarf, whether you're an orc, whether you're a gnome. We all evolved and came into this world, and we all had our own territories, and we all expanded. Well, this is originally orc territory. Back further than any of the races around here, other than the orcs came here back when it was more empty. So, anyways, it's a little bit of a moral dilemma. And almost every time I've run this, the characters will just be like, yeah, no, we're not going to kill this guy. And they'll usually strike up a deal, like say, hey, look, we want to rip off this mayor. He's an asshole, trust me. We don't like him. But give us something like an orc sword, and then we can bring it back to him and say, hey, look, we took this from the leader. And then, but, you know, they'll usually always like, but we're not going to like eradicate the humans for you, man. You're out of luck. You know, there's only 30 of you left. This is, I'm sorry, we're just going to, we'll rip them out for you, right? It's cool. It's a moral dilemma, and I always award the characters experience for good roleplay too. So, you know, I think another tip I would add to this is give characters experience for doing cool things, even if it's not combat related. Good ideas, things like that. Write that down for me. Okay, so look, guys, there's a lot in this, and like I said, I'm gonna go through like chapter by chapter and make a little video. I also want to let you guys know I'm restarting this Lost Mines of Phandelver again, which I'll be adding even more to the story. And I'm going to film. I got some new cameras, I got some new microphones. I'm going to film and stream this, and that way you guys can hang out, watch, comment, leave comments, give suggestions, take some ideas, and I'm going to upload it to YouTube. You guys can check it out. I'll have the group. Probably a smaller group this time, mostly girls, so it'll probably be a little, probably a little less violent, maybe. Who knows, though. But yeah, so let me go over some of the bullet points of tips, and then I'm gonna also make videos, like I said, too, maybe like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of each chapter and section. So honestly, if you want to be a lazy GM and run this for the first time, you can really watch my 10-minute video, and it'll save you a lot of prep time. I'll give you some ideas, I'll give you the gist of the story, you can read through your book, and then boom, just run it. Okay, so here is the tips to end on. Use your environment. Like I said with the butcher, there's plenty of things like cauldrons of boiling water. You know, the chandeliers that are swinging in the room beforehand, before you get in there, they could, you know, Eldritch blast that chandelier and have it land on top of a king. Things along those lines. Explore your characters' backstories. It's really important, and you can lead your party on to a story after this, and maybe even create your own world off of your character's stories. I believe I said something about I had an elf who was a twin. I don't know if I told you guys this, but essentially in my story, you know, elves in D&D lore, there's only a certain amount of souls of elves. And whenever there's a horrible event on Earth, the god of elves will send more elves into Earth. And this is actual D&D lore. They'll send in more elves to kind of help save the Earth, right? Well, my elf's a twin. That is rare and an omen that something bad is going to happen. So I make sure to let clerics know, like, you're a twin. Oh my goodness, they're shocked. It's like something bad must be happening. Everybody, we already know the world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket. Like, you know, instead of going and like, all right, why do the monsters want these mines? Like, oh, they're trying to make an army. You know, we got to stop it. And there's a lot you can go into after this. This is actually a really good starter for your own campaign. Okay, pick on the quiet guy. So that's one of the tips I said. You got the guy who's always making plans. Just say, hey, look, dude, I'm going to let John Doe over here, he's going to pick this one. So what are we going to do in this situation? Just give him a little encouragement and don't be mean about it. Innovate roleplay. Even if you do like one character per session, 3-hour session, we have one good well, technically fighting is roleplay too, but one good vocal interaction. Even if you make one character, say you make a crazy cat lady and you spend a little bit of time creating just her backstory with something interesting to say, just have one of those. Give them one opportunity to sit there and talk and understand a little bit more about the world and hang out and talk to the party, get to know them. Keep combat rolling. Like I said, you got 8 orcs. Just have them have 1 hit point each. Run them like normal. Roll attacks, do full damage, but if they get hit, they're out. And then maybe have one guy, like one big strong guy, who actually has health. And that'll keep things interesting for them. And also, if it's something deadly, it'll always be interesting. So if it's strong, just leave it how it is. Descriptions that use your 5 senses. As you walk up the orchard, the smell of fruit and fresh cut grass and vegetation fills your nose on a sunny day. Things like that. As the storm rolled by, the smell of rain and a freshly washed earth. That moist, that's a bad word, but you know what I'm getting at. And then reward experience for things that aren't combat related. That's an excellent way to get your characters to realize, hey, wait a minute, we got experience for how we roleplayed this. Oh wait, we got experience for, instead of rushing through this and setting off all the traps at once, for meticulously taking out all the traps one by one and making it safe for us to hire some of the guards to come through and help us. There's a lot of reasons to reward experience. One thing I think that is important to know about Dungeons & Dragons is that if you want to play Skyrim, where there's a lot of restrictions, and they say, look, I need you to retrieve this golden claw. Bring it back to me. In Skyrim, you go get the claw, you bring it back. In D&D, he says, look, I'll give you 50 gold to bring back my golden claw. The rogue might say, I'm going to cut your purse, take the 50 gold, we're going to skip the old questaroonie. And then somebody will be like, I'm going to cut your purse, take your gold, I'm going to go ahead and take your claw, and then I'm just going to take it and run and sell it to somebody else, so more gold for me. Or you could even be like, I'm going to take the gold I have, melt it into a claw, and try to trick him into thinking it's the one. And there's literally anything you can think of, right? So yeah, that's the difference. So really allow your characters to explore, but there's absolutely no wrong way to play. It's totally fine if you go off the book. It's very fun. In fact, if I got more opportunities to play as a player, I would not complain at all to go off the book. It's a good system. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Check out more. I'm going to keep uploading. I'll try to do once a week. Maybe once. Yeah, once a week seems fine. That's definitely doable. I was going to say maybe twice a week. No, one's good. Last thing I want to do before I go, I've been also painting, which I'm going to keep uploading videos of me painting some miniatures. And I want to show you some of the ones I've been doing. I think I'm getting good at it. So, I did a pretty sweet beholder. I did a white dragon. I did it as a kind of pink and blue. I did a red dragon, and I really like this one because I did some blue. But if you guys want to check out some painting, go ahead and follow, subscribe I should say, and then I will continue to paint and do some tutorials for that. I really enjoy it, and I'm going to start making my own little rooms. I work as a CNC machinist, and we made this at work. I'm going to show you guys real fast. It is a grid, and I use the maps that I have, and then I use this for zoomed up things. But what I'm going to start doing is taking these, painting it with wood, buying little chairs and super gluing them into it, and making this a permanent bar. So every single time we go into a town, just like a chain restaurant like McMiniman's, you'll go into the Salty Spittoon here, and the Salty Spittoon, this is the Waterdeep Salty Spittoon. This one this chain is the Neverwinter Salty Spittoon. So you guys will be able to, my characters will be able to kind of have a pre-set up thing and explore it. Anyways, so these are some of the things I want to do for my channel. Continue making Magic the Gathering content too. So if you guys are interested in mostly nerd stuff, go ahead and subscribe. Feel free to comment. I always respond, and I love having a little bit of a community. I watch some other guys on YouTube for Magic the Gathering, and I follow them on Twitter, and I'm able to talk, and I love that. I love meeting like-minded people, and if you have good ideas, I'll make sure to talk about them here on the channel. So go ahead and subscribe. Thank you guys. Have a good one.